Hi beautiful, welcome to my channel. In today's video we are ranking some palettes. I have 18 palettes in front of me that I tried throughout the end of the spring season and all throughout summer, and I am going to rank them from worst to best. I have done content here on my channel with each and every single one of these palettes, so if you want to go back to the video where I reviewed it, feel free to do so. There's a couple that maybe I didn't do a full review. I did like short videos on these palettes with showing you how to use them and whatnot, but I have filmed with every single one of these is my point. And so in today's video I'm going to rank them from worst to best. In the 18th spot, and hopefully to nobody's surprise, the most disappointing palette of the season, and that is this quad right here from Miss Pat McGrath Labs. Where is the Mothership palette, first of all? But besides that, this is the Opalescent Orchid eyeshadow quad from Pat McGrath. Here is what it looks like. I cannot even begin to express to you how disappointed I am in the formula of this palette. It is comparable to like very mediocre brands that shall not be mentioned. Mediocre brands formula wise, but like at least those are cheaper brands. This has a mediocre formula, nothing special about these shimmers or the satin shade. Mediocre formula. The color story is kind of meh, and it's still a very expensive eyeshadow quad, being like $50+. It's a scam in a quad basically. They changed the packaging and made it shitty. Just like a huge disappointment. I ranted quite a bit about it in the video where I reviewed it and tried it and created a look with it, so I'm not going to spend too much more time on that one. Just know it is not worth it. Moving on to number 17, and this is a much more affordable eyeshadow palette. The formulas are good, especially for the price. The only reason why it's number 17 and not further up in the ranking is that these are not my colors, basically. And I am talking about the Nomad Cosmetics Canadian Rookies XYC palette right here. This palette has pretty creamy, rich, pigmented matte shades. It has good looking shimmers as well. I did a video where I reviewed this one and the other two that came out as part of this collection, which you guys will see further up in the ranking because those color stories are a bit more up my alley. So anyways, as I was saying, the only reason that this is number 17 in the ranking is the fact that these colors are just not super attractive to me, and so that is why. At number 16, I have a ColourPop palette, the Pokemon and ColourPop palette right here. Here's the back of it. This palette has a really pretty color story with a ton of fun, light, colorful shades. I'm not a huge fan of Pokemon myself, so the theme of the palette is irrelevant to me, to be honest with you. I feel like if I were a Pokemon fan, this would be a lot further up in my ranking, but because I'm not, I'm judging it basically just on the color story and the performance. ColourPop has good eyeshadow formulas for their price. Their palettes are inexpensive. The reason this one is further back is I just don't see myself reaching for it that much. I have a really large collection of eyeshadows, and so there's nothing super special about the shimmers in the palette. There's nothing super special about the formula. The theme is not something that I'm super into, and so for all of that reason, I mean, it's not a bad palette. It's a pretty okay palette with a good price. You get a bunch of different shades, but again, just not me, right? So for that reason, this is palette number 16. At number 15, I have a palette from a brand that I hadn't tried in a very long time, and I thought that given that this color story is so good, I would really love this palette, but I was disappointed at the formula, and I am talking about the Moonshroom palette from Lunar Beauty. I love the outer packaging of this one, and I also really love the color story. Therefore, I thought this was going to be like a very nice palette to have, a really good palette to own, because the color story is beautiful. I love yellowy mustard shades. I love the purples. I love the greens that are in this palette. Like, the color story is 100 out of 100, But the formula, I expected the Lunar Beauty formula to be better, and I was not impressed by it. I was not impressed by the mattes. I was not impressed by the shimmers. It was a bit of a disappointing palette to try. And so for that reason, this is palette number 15. Definitely check out the in-depth video if you want to see all of my reasonings as to why this is number 15. But I'd rather spend my time on the top palettes. At number 14, I have a palette with a really good formula, but a color story that just has been done so many times that it makes me less excited about it, basically. And that is this one here from NARS, the NARS Afterglow Irresistible Eyeshadow Palette. This came out quite a few months ago, and it has a beautiful color story for the summer season, but like, we've seen these colors so much over the years. Even from NARS itself, we've seen these colors so many times throughout the years that it makes me less excited about this palette. The formula is fantastic. The shimmers are nice and ethereal, which I'm really into. I like the warm colors enough, but I don't feel like these types of warm colors are super trendy right now. And so it just goes back to, they just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, and it gets a little boring. Therefore, this just falls a little back for me, you know? And palette number 13 is one that has a similar-ish color story, but I like it better. And so therefore, they kind of fell similar to one another. And that is the Nomad AUH palette, the Abu Dhabi Zaid palette, which also has a warm color story. Now, I like this one better because it's more affordable, and the shades are super creamy, and the mattes are very, very pigmented. This one is nice and travel friendly. The formula is fantastic. It's just the color story, again, not super what I'm into at the moment, and so the rest of them I like a little better. Therefore, this is number 13. At number 12, I have my first palette I've ever tried from the brand Polite Society, and it is the VIP palette, the Very Important palette. Here's the color story of it. I like that this one had this beautiful ethereal shade. I'm into ethereal shades that can be used as toppers, kind of like the Mario ethereal palette. The shimmers have good formulation to them. The mattes are nice and pigmented. The formula was pretty good. The color story is pretty good, but also I feel like I have so many palettes in my collection that have a color story similar to this one that it makes me not love it as much as the ones that I have in front of it. It's a beautiful palette with a good performance. I liked it okay. I thought it was good. But because these shades are so common looking per se, it's not going to become a favorite. I like the packaging. I like the performance. Like, I have nothing bad to say about it. I even like the color story, but it doesn't make me excited anymore because I've seen it so many times. At number 11, I have a Too Faced mini palette. This is the Born This Way Cold Smoldering Nudes, or Cold Smolder Nudes mini eyeshadow palette, which is this very cute and very travel friendly palette right here. As you can see, we get 3 mattes and 3 shimmers with this one. I really like the formula of these shades. I thought that the mattes were really nice and creamy. And I also really love that the shimmers have a beautiful metallic finish. They're very intense, very pigmented. They go wonderfully with the matte shades around it. You can create some really pretty looks with this one. Absolutely nothing against it. I loved it. It's nice. It's travel friendly. A cool tone color story, which is a bit more trendy this year. I have nothing bad to say about this one. I just like the ones in front of it even better than it. From here on, I don't really have complaints about any of the palettes coming. It's just a matter of preference. At number 10, I have the third of the Nomad Cosmetics travel palettes, which is this one here, the OSL palette from Nomad. This one is my favorite because it has the cool tone color story. I thought that these shimmer shades were beautiful, very nice and pigmented, one a little darker than the other, and of course it goes really well with all of the colors around it. These Nomad palettes have really great formulas. They're creamy, they're pigmented, they're blendable. And out of the 3 that they launched, this one was definitely my most favorite, which is why it made it further up in the ranking. So this was palette number 10. We started the top 10 with this Nomad palette, and at number 9 I have a Danessa Myricks palette that I really liked, and that was this beauty right here. This is the Danessa Myricks Groundworks Blooming palette, Blooming Romance palette, I'm sorry. And here's what it looks like. This palette is half creams, half powders. The powders are the small thin pans, the creams are the big ones right here. I love these types of palettes from Denona because they make me experiment and step out of my comfort zone and try things differently, look at things differently. As you may or may not know, depending on whether or not you watched my video, these palettes are very multifunctional and you can use these shades for a lot of different things around the face. In this case, because of the color story of this one, we couldn't do brows, although you could use it for brows, but we did use it for the cheeks, for the eyes, and for the mouth as well as lipstick. I love that she included all kinds of tones of rose in here. She did warm and red, and she did cool toned pink roses as well. The palette is, I wouldn't say the most pigmented, but you can definitely build it up to be as pigmented as you want it to be, and it has a really good amount of blendability. It's a really nice palette to have with you if you're on the go, because again, you can do so much with these shades. Use them on the eyes, use them on the cheeks, on the lips, etc. Definitely check out the video where I tried it so you can see all the different ways that I used this one and the reasons why. This is palette number 9. At number 8, I have an Oden's Eye palette, and that is the Soulmane 2 palette that came out a couple of months ago. Here's the color story of this one. I absolutely love Oden's Eye eyeshadow formulas. You guys already know that, and this one is no different. It has really beautiful sparkly shimmer shades. It also has colorful, blendable, buildable, beautiful mattes. And Oden's Eye seems to often come out with color stories that make me kind of step out of the box a little bit, but not too much. I can do very beautiful, glamorous looks with these colors, which is what I love, without them being too out there, without stepping out of the box too much. I can step out of the box with these, but not out of my comfort zone, if that makes sense. I love this color story. Definitely check out the video where I tried it. At number 7, I have a palette from a new brand, and that is By Us, which is a sister brand to Oden's Eye. I really loved playing with this palette and the looks that I created with it, so much so that even though it's a brand that you guys hadn't really heard about before, I did 3 different looks on my video for this palette because I was enjoying playing with it so much. So at number 7, as I was saying, this is the Garden Busters palette from the brand By Us, and here's what the color story of this one looks like. This palette has bright, beautiful, colorful shades like these right here, and again, these types of shades, just like I was saying with Oden's Eye, they make me step out of the box but not out of my comfort zone. So I can create looks with this palette that are going to be colorful, but because the shades aren't too dark, I'm going to be able to create looks that are soft enough that I still feel very put together and very glamorous. My favorite look I created with this palette is this one right here. I'll put on the screen. In love, obsessed with that look. Again, out of my box but not out of my comfort zone. I don't know if that makes any sense to anyone, but that's a look that's once again not my usual, but it's definitely still very me. And I was able to create it because of the soft, beautiful matte shades that this palette has, but also because this palette has the most incredible shimmer shades as well. Like, these shimmer shades are so beautiful, they're creamy, and a fantastic quality. I highly recommend it if you're looking for a colorful, fun palette. This is it right here. At number 6, I have a little palette from Natasha Denona, and that is this one right here, the Mini Rose palette that came out a few months ago. I love Natasha Denona mini palettes, and this one is definitely right up my alley. It has a beautiful, romantic, soft color story. It still has a brown that is deep enough that will make this palette be good for a lot of different complexions. Of course, Natasha Denona matte shades are always 10 out of 10, always creamy, always beautiful and easy to use and blendable and just fantastic. But then besides that, this palette has this beautiful shade right here that I love for the center of my eyelid because it's nice and it's ethereal and it's sparkly. It's called Psychedelic. It's beautiful. So overall, I really like this palette. It's of course the most amazing palette to travel with, and Natasha Denona has amazing quality, and I'm always excited for her new releases. So all of those reasons are the reasons why this right here is palette number 6 out of 18. And just like that, we've gotten to the top 5 palettes I tried in the past several months. At number 5, the palette that I'm wearing today, which is incredibly beautiful. And if anyone's noticed that it looks super effed up right back here, it's because my eye would not stop crying earlier, okay? It's not the palette's fault. This is 100% my crying eyes fault. Anyways, you can see already why this palette made it all the way to number 5, because I love my sparkles, and that is exactly what this palette has. I'm talking about the Fantasy Cosmetica Cradled in Ice palette. Take a look at how beautiful these shades are. Now, I'm calling this a 9-pan palette for me. Obviously it has 12 shades, right? But I don't like matte blues. I like shimmer blues on the center of the eye, but I'm not a fan of matte blue shades. For the most part, I can sometimes work with them. But this palette made it all the way to number 5, and I'm only counting the 9 shades that I like in it. So disregard the 3 blue. All of the shimmers and all of these cool tone, rosy tones right here are what made this palette go all the way to the front, because I love them. To begin with, if you haven't tried Fantasy Cosmetica yet, they have one of the most incredible indie brand formulas on the market, period. Their matte shades are not only very, very pigmented, but they blend very easily. Take a look right here at what these look like, right? Super pigmented, but very easy to blend. You have to be a little light-handed with it because the pigmentation is definitely very, very real. And even though this matte formula is fantastic, this is not even my favorite formula that they make. When you've been staring at their shimmers all throughout this video, you can definitely see that the shimmers are an 11 out of 10. Let me swatch a few for you. The ones in the center of my eyelid are this one here, and I believe this one, if I remember correctly, like these 2 shades. Yummy, right? Let me just swatch 4 of them for you. Take a look at how beautiful and glittery and glimmery and metallic and intense these shimmers are. Are you freaking kidding me? I don't need any other explanation. That is why this is number 5. At number 4, I have what might be my most favorite Sigma palette ever. I've tried quite a few Sigma palettes, not all of them, but this is my favorite right here, okay? And I'm of course referring to the Sigma Cool Neutrals palette here. I really love this color story, even though a lot of people were upset that like they put some neutral and warm colors on a cool tone palette. I like to have the variety. I like to have my options, and so I don't hate that those colors are there. However, my favorite side of the palette is definitely like what I'm not covering. These 2 shades are beautiful, and then these right here, all of the cool tone, rosy, beautiful shades are fantastic. Now, why is this my favorite Sigma palette ever besides the beautiful color story? I think Sigma has continued to improve on their eyeshadow formulas. I was very happily surprised to see that this palette has very creamy, very blendable pigmented mattes and really stunning metallic shimmer shades that are attention seeking the way I like them to be. Not this level of attention seeking, but really, really nice. I'm well aware not everyone likes this level of sparkle, okay? So here are some of Sigma's metallic beautiful shimmer shades. A little bit more toned down, a little bit more elegant, if you will. They pair beautifully with the mattes. I also really love that this palette is half mattes, half shimmers. 10 out of 10, honestly. I really, really loved this color story and the formulation of this palette. I was very impressed to see that Sigma's eyeshadow formula continues to get better. I love this one. At number 3, I have my most favorite palette of the spring season. It is a palette from Unearthly Cosmetics. I love this palette's color story with a passion. The shades and the formulas are so incredible. Now, I will say I have reached out to Unearthly Cosmetics twice. I reached out on Instagram and I reached out through email so that I could get you guys a discount code, and they do not reply to my messages. It's fine. My pride is not hurt. For whatever reason, maybe they didn't see my messages, or maybe they just like are not giving out discount codes anymore, but I know that they have discount codes and I definitely want to share a discount code with you. So I'm going to pop my beautiful friend Leah Jane's discount code on the screen right here so that you guys can still save some money even though they won't reply to my messages. Okay, I still absolutely adore this palette and highly recommend it because the formula and the color story is 11 out of 10 for me. Okay, let me finally show you the palette if you haven't seen it. I'm talking about the Unearthly Cosmetics Spring Magic palette. This palette is so freaking beautiful. This was one of those that I didn't do a dedicated video on. I tried, you guys, but I have a newborn baby. I couldn't do it. But I did do 2 separate looks with it, and I have them posted on my Instagram because they were like real videos that I posted. I might have also posted them as shorts here on YouTube, but for sure they're on my Instagram. Anyways, let me show you some swatches of this beautiful, stunning palette because it's just so good. First of all, here are some of the matte shades swatched, and you can see how creamy these formulas are. I need another finger to show you. See, like the mattes are soft, they're creamy, they blend so beautifully, they are pigmented. Their matte formula is incredible, and then they have the most amazing duochrome shimmers as well. Take a look right here at how beautiful and pigmented and metallic these shimmers are. I really love Unearthly Cosmetics eyeshadow formula. It's so good, it's so creamy, absolutely nothing to complain about. But my favorite thing about this palette, besides the beautiful formula, was the incredible color story, because every single look that I created with this palette was like a soft, romantic, ethereal type of look, something pinky or peachy, or just like, it was the perfect palette for the spring season. I loved it. I highly recommend it. If it's still available, use Leah's code to get your discount. It's such a good palette. You will have 0 regrets, okay? We still do have 2 other palettes to go though. In the second spot, my second most favorite palette I tried in the past several months is this one here from Adept Cosmetics, the Adept Cosmetics and Amy Love's collaboration palette. You guys know I have a special place in my heart for Adept Cosmetics shimmer eyeshadow formulas, and this palette was so good. I love all of the cool tone matte shades, and you can create super soft, beautiful cool tone looks with this one. Take a look right here at the stunning cool tone mattes and their different variations. Now these mattes are great as like a one and done crease color. Each one of them individually can be used as a one and done crease color. If you want to deepen it up a bit, maybe use the color Scrunchy right here just to deepen things up a bit more. But then the star of the show are definitely the duochrome and multi-chrome shimmers that this palette has in it. So let me show you some of those. Shades like Lights Up or Floral. Glam is super sparkly. It's like a mirror, okay? Anyways, Lavender right here. Pisces. Take a look right here at how incredibly stunning these multi-chrome shimmers are. This shade Glam is so beautiful. I've never seen a more metallic, glittery, shimmery, just compact. Look at that swatch. Are you kidding me? You put that on your eyes and you can be seen from Mars. I promise. It's so pretty. Look at how much is left on my finger even after I swatched that. Are you kidding me? These are such good formulas. Okay, this shade looks kind of lavender on camera. However, it's kind of like a mermaid shade. Take a look at how it now looks kind of blue and green. It's so beautiful. The shifts in these shades are chef's kiss, just incredible. And I'm not even done swatching. Check out Indie or Vibes or Caramel or Stunning. Take a look right there at the rest of the shades. This palette just has the most insane, the most amazing duochrome, multi-chrome, metallic shimmer shades. Just beautiful. If it's still available and you can get your hands on it, do it. Moving on from that, because I could talk about it forever. Last and my most favorite palette that I've tried in the past several months is this beauty right here from BUXOM Cosmetics. You guys know I am a basic girl at heart, and this Barely Basics palette right here is just perfection. It's just the perfect basic girl palette with a little bit of a twist. I believe this one sold out at one point, but it might be back in stock for pre-order or something. Here is what this palette looks like. It's like a step above basic. As you can see, you have 4 beautiful color stories that I kind of like to use individually. So I go down the row right here, and you can always create the most beautiful eyeshadow looks like that are going to, of course, be very cohesive because they're going to be within the same color story. You have a cool tone eye look, you have an olive eye look, you have a warm eye look, and a pink eye look. I, in my video, did 3 different looks with this one, and I used the last 3 color stories. This palette has incredible mattes, and I love that they are colors that stack really beautifully with one another. Like, you can use this for your crease, this to intensify, this to smoke, and the same goes for each of the color stories. The mattes have incredible formulas. They are blendable, they're pigmented, nothing to complain about. And then their shimmers are also so beautiful and so metallic and so pigmented and so perfect. Take a look right there. See, just imagine these on my eyelids. I absolutely love this palette. It is so good. If you have not heard me talk about it, definitely check out the video where I reviewed it and gave you 3 different looks. I'll link it down below in the description box, because this is my most favorite palette I've tried in the past several months. I love it, okay? Love it, love it, love it. I highly recommend it. It is your basic palette, but better. I love the way the palette is laid out. It just makes it so easy to create eyeshadow looks as well. Honestly, incredible. And as you can see, indie brands are absolutely winning the eyeshadow palette game, because all 5 of my top most favorite palettes that I've tried in the past several months are indie palette brands. I have been putting up my discount codes for all of these different brands on the screens as I've talked about the palettes, but if you want to see the full list of these palettes with the links and the discount codes, definitely check out the description box down below. You might be wondering why I have not talked about the Natasha Denona I Need a Warm palette, and that is because I consider this a fall eyeshadow palette release. And I'm going to do a separate ranking video for fall and holiday palettes, probably at some point in November. So you'll see this one rank then. I've also only played with it the day that I filmed my review video. I need to give myself more time to see exactly how much I like it. So that one will be in a separate ranking video at some point. Anyways, I highly recommend that you check out my top palettes. Thank you all so much for watching today's video. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.